Our campaign is about big things because we happen to believe that America faces big challenges. We recognize this is a year with a big choice, and the American people want to see big changes. And together we can bring that kind of change, real change, to our country. You know, 4 years ago, candidate Obama spoke to the scale of the times. Today he shrinks from it, trying instead to distract our attention from the biggest issues to the smallest. From characters on Sesame Street and silly word games to misdirected personal attacks he knows are false. The president's campaign falls far short of the magnitude of these times, and the presidency of the last 4 years has fallen far short of the promises of his last campaign. 4 years ago, America voted for a post-partisan president, but they've seen the most partisan of political presidents. And Washington is in gridlock because of it. President Obama promised to bring us together, but at every turn he sought to divide and demonize. He promised to cut the deficit in half, but he doubled it. How about his budget? It failed to win a single vote, either Republican or Democrat, in either house of the Congress. He said he would reform Medicare and Social Security and save them from pending insolvency. But he shrunk from proposing any solution at all. And then where are the jobs? Where are the 9 million more jobs that President Obama promised his stimulus would have created by now? They're in China, Mexico, Canada, in countries that have made themselves more attractive for entrepreneurs and business and investment, even as President Obama's policies have made it less attractive for them here. And so today his campaign tries to deflect and detract, to minimize the failures, and to make this election about small, shiny objects. But this election matters more than that. It matters to your family. It matters to the senior who needs to get an appointment with a medical specialist but is told by one receptionist after another that the doctor isn't taking any new Medicare patients because Medicare has been slashed to pay for Obamacare. It matters to the man from Waukesha, Wisconsin I spoke with several days ago. And what were supposed to be his best work years, he used to have a job at $25 an hour with benefits, and now has one at $8 an hour without benefits. It matters to the college student graduating this spring with $10,000 to $20,000 in student debt, who now learns that she'll also be paying for $50,000 in government debt, a burden that will put the American dream beyond the reach of so many. It matters for the child in a failing school, unable to go to the school of his parents' choosing because the teachers' union that funds the president campaigns opposes school choice. The president's campaign slogan is this: forward. But to 23 million Americans struggling to find a good job, these last 4 years feel a lot more like backward. We can't afford 4 more years like the last 4 years. This election is about big things, like the education of our children, the value of our homes, the take-home pay from our jobs, the price of the gasoline we buy, and the choices we have in our health care. It's also about the big things that determine those things, like the growth of the economy, the strength of our military, our dependence on foreign oil, and America's leadership in the world. President Obama frequently reminds us that he inherited a troubled economy. But a troubled economy is not all that he inherited. He also inherited the greatest nation in the history of the earth. He inherited the most productive and innovative nation in history. He inherited the largest economy in the world. And he inherited a people who have always risen to the occasion, regardless of the challenges they faced, so long as they've been led by men and women who brought us together, called on our patriotism, and guided the nation with vision and conviction. Despite all that he inherited, President Obama did not repair our economy. He did not save Medicare and Social Security. He did not tame the spending and borrowing. He did not reach across the aisle to bring us together. Nor did he stand up to China's trade practices or deliver on his promise to remake our relations with the Muslim world. where anti-American extremism is on the rise. What he inherited wasn't the only problem. What he did with what he inherited made the problem worse. In just 4 short years, he borrowed $6 trillion nearly, adding almost as much debt held by the public as all prior American presidents combined. He forced through Obamacare, frightening small business from hiring new employees and adding thousands of dollars to every family's health care bill. He launched an onslaught of new regulations, often to the delight of the biggest banks and corporations, but to the detriment of the small, growing businesses that create 2/3 of our jobs. New business starts, they're at a 30-year low because entrepreneurs and investors are sitting on the sidelines, weary from the president's staggering new regulations and proposed massive tax increases. Many families can't get mortgages, and many entrepreneurs can't get loans because of Dodd-Frank regulations that made it harder for banks to lend. The president invested taxpayer money, your money, in green companies now failed that met his fancy and were sometimes owned by his largest campaign contributors. He spent billions of taxpayer dollars on investments like Solyndra and Tesla and Fisker and Enter1, which only added to our debt. Energy prices are up in part because energy production on federal lands is down. He rejected the Keystone Pipeline from Canada and cut in half drilling permits and leases, even as gasoline prices soared to new highs. No, the problem with the Obama economy is not what he inherited. It's with the misguided policies that slowed the recovery and caused millions of Americans to endure lengthy unemployment and poverty. That's why 15 million more of our fellow citizens are on food stamps than when President Obama took office. That's why 3 million more women are now living in poverty. That's why nearly 1 in 6 Americans today is poor. That's why the economy is stagnant. Today we received, by the way, the latest round of discouraging economic news. Last quarter, our economy grew at just 2%. After the stimulus was passed, the White House promised that the economy would now be growing at 4.3%, over twice as fast. Slow economic growth means slow job growth and declining take-home pay. That's what 4 years of President Obama's policies have produced. Americans are ready for change, for growth, for jobs, for more take-home pay, and we're going to bring it to them. Now, you know, we've had 4 presidential and vice presidential debates, and there's nothing in what the president proposed or defended that has any prospect of meeting the challenges of the times. Rising taxes will not grow jobs or ignite the economy. In fact, his tax plan has been calculated to destroy 700,000 jobs. A new stimulus 3 years after the recession officially ended, that may spare government, but it won't stimulate the private sector any better than did the stimulus of 4 years ago. And cutting $1 trillion from the military would kill jobs and devastate our national defense. This is not the time to double down on trickle-down government policies that have failed us. It's time for new, bold changes that measure up to the moment and that can bring America's families to the future will be better than the past. If Paul, Ryan, and I are elected as your president and vice president, we will endeavor with all our hearts and energy to restore America. Instead of more spending, more borrowing from China, and higher taxes from Washington, we'll renew our faith in the power of free people pursuing their dreams. We'll start our plan for a stronger middle class that has 5 elements, and you've heard me talk about them before. 1, we're going to act to put America on track to a balanced budget by eliminating unnecessary programs, by sending programs back to states where they can be managed with less abuse and less cost, and by shrinking the bureaucracy in Washington. Number 2, we'll produce more of the energy we need to heat our homes, fill our cars, and make our economy grow. We will stop the Obama war on coal, the disdain for oil, and the effort to crimp natural gas by federal regulation of the very technology that produces it. We're going to support nuclear and renewables, but we'll phase out subsidies once an industry is on its feet. And rather than investing in electric auto and solar companies, will invest in energy science and research to make discoveries that can actually change our energy world. And by 2020, we will achieve North American energy independence. Free will make trade work for America. We'll open more markets for American agriculture and products and services. And we'll finally hold accountable any nation that doesn't play by the rules. Look, I'm going to stand up for the rights and interests of American workers and employers. And four, we're going to grow jobs by making America the best place for job creators, for entrepreneurs, for small business, for innovators, for manufacturers. This will mean updating and reshaping regulations to encourage growth by lowering tax rates while lowering deductions and closing loopholes, and by making it clear from day one that unlike the current administration, we actually like business and the jobs that business creates. Finally, as we create more opportunity, we'll make sure that our citizens have the skills they need to succeed. Training programs are going to be shaped by the states where people live. And schools will put the interests of our kids and their parents and their teachers above the interests of the teachers' unions. Look, when we do those 5 things, this economy is going to come roaring back. We're going to create 12 million new jobs in just 4 years. We'll see rising take-home pay. And we'll get America's economy growing at 4% a year, more than double this year's rate. You know, after all the false promises of recovery and all the waiting, we're finally going to see help for America's middle class. It is about time. And Paul and I aren't going to stop there. When we take office, we're going to take responsibility to solve the big problems that everyone agrees can't wait any longer. We'll save Medicare and Social Security, both for current and near retirees and for the generation to come. We'll restore the $716 billion President Obama has taken from Medicare to pay for his vaunted Obamacare. We'll reform health care, to tame its growth in the cost that's been going skyrocketing, to provide for those with pre-existing conditions as well, and to assure that every American has access to health care. We're going to replace government choice in health care with consumer choice, bringing the dynamics of the marketplace to a sector that's too long been dominated by government. Now, these things, among others, we can only do if we work tirelessly to bridge the divide between the political parties. We're going to meet with Democrat and Republican leaders in Washington regularly. We're going to look for common ground and shared principles. We'll put the interests of the American people above the interests of the politicians. And I know something about leading, because I've led before. In business, in the Olympics, in my state, I brought people together to achieve real change. As you know, I was elected a Republican governor in a state that has a legislature that was 85% Democrat. When I came into office, we were looking at a multi-billion-dollar budget gap. But instead of fighting with each other, we came together to solve the problems. We actually cut government spending. We reduced it. We lowered taxes 19 times. We defended school choice. We worked to make our state business friendly. And our state moved up 20 places in job growth. Our schools were ranked #1 in the nation. We turned a $3 billion budget deficit into a $2 billion rainy day fund. I know it because I've seen it. Good Democrats can come together with good Republicans to solve big problems. What we need is leadership to make that happen. America is ready for that kind of leadership. Paul Ryan and I will provide it. Our plan for a stronger middle class will create jobs, stop the decline in take-home pay, and put America back on the path of prosperity and opportunity. And this will enable us to fulfill our responsibility as the leader of the free world, to promote the principles of peace. We'll help the Muslim world combat the spread of extremism. We'll dissuade Iran from building a nuclear bomb. We'll build enduring relationships throughout Latin America. We'll partner with China and other great nations to build a more stable and peaceful world. Look, we face big challenges, but we also have big opportunities. New doors have been opened to us to sell our ideas and products around the world. New technologies offer the promise of unbounded information and limitless innovation. New ideas are changing lives and hearts in diverse nations and among diverse peoples. If we seize the moment and rise to the occasion, the century ahead will be an American century. Our children will graduate into jobs that are waiting for them. Our seniors will be confident that their retirement is secure. Our men and women will have good jobs and good pay and good benefits. And we'll have confidence that our lives are safe and that our livelihoods are secure. What this requires is change. Change from the course of the last 4 years. It requires that we put aside the small and the petty and demand the scale of change we deserve. We need real change, big change. That time has come. Our campaign is about that kind of change. Confronting the problems that politicians have avoided for over a decade. Revitalizing our competitive economy. Modernizing education. Restoring our founding principles. This is the kind of change that promises a better future. One shaped by men and women pursuing their dreams in their own unique ways. This election is a choice. A choice between the status quo, going forward with the same policies of the last 4 years, or instead choosing real change. Change that offers promise. Promise that the future will be better than the past. If you're ready for that kind of change, if you want this to be a turning point in America's course, join Paul Ryan and me. Get your friends and family to do the same. Vote now for the kind of leadership these times demand. I'm counting on Iowa. Iowa may be the place to decide who the next president is. It may decide whether or not we're going to have real change. So I'm counting on you to vote, to get your friends to vote, to work at the polls, to bring people out. We've got to take back America and make sure that we have the kind of change that gets America strong, not just for us, but for coming generations.